Welcome to another week of Half Serious, everybody. It's freaking awesome to have you on. I don't know why you guys come back every week, but we're freaking happy to have you. So, on to our guest, Jaide. She had a hell of a time as a teenager, ended up homeless, had to basically crawl out of the freaking Middle Earth or whatever the hell you want to call it. And now she owns her own business and is helping other people to kind of help themselves, so to speak. I'm not going in depth with it. I'm going to let her tell her story, but it is a freaking interesting one. As far as updates, we're still looking for guests for season 2. So if you know anybody that should come on here, shoot them our information and let's start rolling with it. I would like a dispatcher on, actually. Now I'm thinking we haven't had a dispatcher on, and I feel like that's something that we need to get in there. If you guys know a dispatcher that would like to come on here and talk, by all means, let's get them on here. But as usual, I will shut up and let Jaide tell her story.
Well, honestly, my life is like I'm very blessed. I'm very, very grateful. And where I am now, like if I were to have gone back and to talk to, 15-year-old, anything like that, and told her that this is where we'd be sitting today, I think that there'd be a profound amount of relief and confidence. I know she would have been proud. That's for damn sure. Though she may not have totally believed me. It actually gets a lot better. And everything with age just seems to be getting better and better and continues to do so. And I hear people always talk about wanting to go backwards. Oh, if I could go back to my youth, you could not fucking pay me. You could not pay me. There is no amount of money that you could pay me to go back there. I specialize in coaching and helping people really reclaim and rewrite their own stories. And that's a blessing in itself to have that trust. The keys to people's deepest and darkest spaces, and to be able to hold that and watch people unfold and recognize and remember how beautiful and whole and amazing that they really are, and that change is always available. That's something that I really love. And I work my ass off to get here. Yeah.
So what kind of clients would come to you? Like, is it trauma issues, or is it what kind of people, I guess, would come to you, and what would they ask of you to know that they needed a service?
I typically do see people from all walks of life, and that's the beautiful thing is I get to meet them where they're at. But a lot of these people have just fallen out of disconnection with themselves, right? Remembering who they really are and what it means to really connect and live life on purpose with purpose. So a lot of them, like they're struggling with anxiety, depression. They've gone really far down a path that isn't actually aligned with their values, and they're like, they're figuring out, they're like, wait, what are my values? And oh my gosh, I am totally living a life that is not inside my own value system. No wonder I'm miserable. And until you really determine what those things are, it can be a little bit of a struggle fuck
Yeah.
if you're living, someone else's idea of success and joy and happiness. Identify those patterns and those limiting self-beliefs that have taken over for quite some time, and give them that capacity to really rewire that and rewrite that for themselves. And sometimes those are really immediate, profound shifts. And as we know, you spend however many years going down a path one way and believing one thing. It takes a little while to rewire those other things, but the transformational experiences that people have doing this work is profoundly incredible.
So what would be an example of somebody that would come to see you, maybe that, because I can't even wrap my head around it, so I'm curious.
Well, let's go with a really common one, right? A lot of
Okay.
people are sitting in the belief of not being enough, not being worthy, right? Like
Yep.
just, and they can know logically. They're like the front of their brain is like, yeah, yeah, I'm worthy. But there's these subconscious directives that are playing out that continue to mirror back to them this deep-seated belief that I'm not worthy, and that can manifest in all sorts of different ways. Attachment issues where maybe you're predominantly anxious and chasing people who are emotionally unavailable. Maybe it is that you keep people pleasing, and giving yourself away, or maybe you just don't let anybody in because the idea of vulnerability is actually really terrifying to you, and you want to believe that you're vulnerable, but all the data is showing we got some stuff going on with vulnerability. we shine a light on what's really happening there. Now we go through, I'm like, okay, when did you notice these feelings popping up? When does that pop up? What does that sound like? Okay,
Mhm.
we'll go through those things and really uncover layer by layer what is the deep root of this belief, and where is the first time that you experience that, what's going on. And it's amazing to witness how people, like, their subconscious, their loops, they're just living in a past life. Like, a part of their nervous
Yeah.
system is actually just looping an old story constantly, which is preventing them from really being present with the reality that's around them, and also the one that they want to influence and create. We can interrupt the story, interrupt the pattern, and reshape that story.
So how did you get involved in this? How did your story kind of meander to being so involved and enthralled in this?
Well, I needed to do it for myself first.
It's a
Yeah.
good start, yeah.
I needed to do it for myself first. I was an unhinged hot mess. I was out on my own before I had hit 16.
Oh man, like
Mm.
having to live on your own?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Shit. Yeah, no.
I by the time I was 10 years old, I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, a panic disorder, and for those of you who don't know what a panic disorder is, there's anxiety, and then there's that feeling like you're gonna die, and that feeling, and I would get these repeat panic attacks, sometimes like 3 times a day, and it's like having to squish myself into uncomfortable corners, trying to wait for the feeling to pass.
Mhm.
I'd had some obviously big stuff happen prior to 10 years old, and it just lived in my body for a really long time. It was like a somatic experience. And what was very disorienting about going through that was there were so many gaps in the memories. So there was times where it would come on and it would feel very familiar in my body, but I wouldn't know what was really happening. And
Mm.
that creates, like, even a bigger disconnect and a bigger disassociation. So it just was not comfortable at all to be in my own skin. I was going to different government group programs and one-on-one counseling, medicated, you name it. And I was like treatment resistant, or what they
Mm.
named that, because it wasn't helping. It wasn't helping.
Do you think it was a failure on their part to identify things, or was it just that you finding the right kind of treatment for you? But also, you're freaking young, so how are you supposed to be able to help yourself at that age?
There's a couple of different nuanced buckets that I'll say, right? I mean, we could go rah, Western medicine sucks, and practitioners often are failing people because they're treating symptoms, not the root. Now, on the other hand of it, what we can also say is that there's just so much knowledge that we were lacking and that we still are lacking
Mhm.
in the way that trauma brain works and trauma impacts different systems, and even in the way that we define trauma in itself. So back then, what I would say is that they were doing what they thought was right, and it wasn't right for me, as it is not right for so many. And there is a huge gap in the knowledge as well on treating people outside of that point of view. We're not looking at things holistically. We're prescribing antidepressants and SSRIs when we also know that 90% of that is made in your gut. So we have a gut health issue on top
Mm.
of everything else. We don't treat it with the multifaceted lens that it actually deserves to be addressed with, where we can take a look and we can learn about that person, and we can learn about where their threshold is, what it is that's actually impacting them. What are the stories? It's not just about talk therapy where you're talking about it, and that has its place,
Mhm.
but a lot of people leave re-traumatized because they've just spent an hour inside of their wounds with absolutely no skills or tools given to them about how to manage it or deal with it. And there's also a certain wall, right? Especially when I was younger, I had trauma from male, and then I'm stuck with a male therapist, and that just doesn't feel comfortable for
Mm.
me. And, there's this sort of analytical, they're studying and they're trying to figure out things as well. And there's that lab rat sort of feeling, and that disconnect, right? It's like, okay, well, if we have a vulnerability issue, we know that it's not just as simple as talking about these things. Like, we have to earn
Mhm.
trust. We have to look at real skills and tools, and it's not just, let's talk about this and here's some medicine and we'll see
Yeah.
what happens. There was just a huge gap. I mean, we've come so far in mental health over the last 25 years, and yet there is just so much information that leaves a lot of people slipping through the cracks and really misinformed about how to take responsibility and accountability for their own healing, or to even give them the hope to do so. Medicine is a symptomatic treatment, and it is necessary in a lot of cases, but it isn't the end, right? That's not the end of
Mhm.
where things are. So it was very infuriating to me nonetheless when I was, 10, and they were like, "Oh, guess what? You're going to be medicated for the rest of your life." And you probably, telling my parents, "Oh, she
Yeah.
probably won't have any functional relationships. She won't be able to hold down a full-time job. Like, you got a hot mess here. We'll just medicate her, and oh, she's not sleeping, we'll give her more meds, and
Mhm.
she's not coping very well. Okay, like we can just change her meds." And I remember thinking, this doesn't seem right at all. You're telling me that something that was out of my control that happened to me is something that I have to live with for the rest of my life as a
Yeah.
consequence? That doesn't seem right. I didn't like it. It was very messy, but I did it. And I'm sitting here and I haven't been on medication since I was a teen. I don't have panic attacks anymore. I taught
Man.
myself how to interrupt those patterns. I taught myself how to regulate my nervous system. I taught myself how to notice when anxiety was about to be on that precipice of panic and to straight up interrupt and do what I needed to do to stop those from spiraling and happening. And I was very hell bent and determined to do it.
Yeah. How old were you when you finally made that drastic change when you're like, "Okay, now I need to do something different and I'm gonna take hold of this"?
I did it poorly, very poorly. Okay. So
You
this
can't
is
do it perfect the first time. I mean,
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, like, again, right? Misinformed, don't know anything. So I've been medicated at this time for a really long time. And I'm 15 years old, and I decide I'm just going to stop taking my medication. I hate this shit. So I just chuck it out and I stop it cold turkey, which is absolutely a huge no no. You can't do
yeah.
that. And I had a significant impairment in in at that
Mm.
time, and ended up in the hospital after a
Oh shit.
suicide attempt with tubes down my nose and into my stomach.
Mm.
It was like just absolutely terrible.
I'm guessing pills.
Mhm. Oh, yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But not even the kind that would kill me right away because again, you're just 15 and
Would you want a
stupid. You're
slow
like,
death or something?
yeah, right, exactly. And that's what the doctor said to me. They're like, "Yeah, just so you know, this would have been like 2 weeks on dialysis while all your organs just slowly shut down." And I was like, "Great, awesome. Yeah, that's fucking prime."
Mhm.
And I remember waking up in the hospital, looking around like, and I like just thinking to myself, all right, well, if I'm here, there's got to be a reason for it. So that was terrible. I never want to do that again. That was
Yeah.
shitty. The judgment and the shame whew, I'm getting from
Mhm.
the fam jam. I would love to just rather crawl into a hole and never come out. So I made some different choices after that. I didn't go back on the medication or anything like that. And of course, nobody informed me or said anything like, you suddenly stopped your medication. This is probably what it was from, things like that. Instead, it
Yeah.
was like, okay, we're going to send you for a psych ed assessment. We're going to ask you some questions. And of course, I just lied my face off so I could get out of there.
Mhm.
Again, a really great system. I love that. We're just gonna sit you down and we'll ask you like 30 questions.
Mhm.
And, if you answer them okay, you just tried to kill yourself, but it's fine.
Yeah.
No. Um,
It's fine.
that they're like, well, she's not even smart enough to take the right type of pills. It's like, she'll survive. She'll survive. So it was like after that, I mean, obviously I was not doing okay for a while. And
Yeah.
just I couldn't. There was like this profound moment where I realized it didn't matter where I went, it was not gonna work out at all. And I packed like the smallest little bag, a little bit of water, my MP3 player that could hold a whopping 8 songs on it. Yeah,
What?
I know, I know. It was
Wait, which 8 songs did you pick
Oh my
for
gosh.
this?
Yeah, it was a mishmash. But I will say that on that mishmash, a favorite was One Headlight by the Wallflowers.
Oh my God, so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, so good, right? I was like, that song got me through some pretty rough times. So, like, I had basically nothing, just, a couple things of clothes. I had, like, a couple bucks in change, a couple granola bars, some water, and I was like, "I'll figure it out." And I just left. I left and I didn't go back. I left
Wow.
and didn't go back, and I had no cell phone, no way for anybody to get a hold of me. I was, I was in rough shape, and I was a glorified couch hopper. Bless each and every one that decided that they would tell their parents, my friend just needs a place to crash for the night, not telling them that I was not well and completely homeless. Yeah, I couch hopped for a while. And then this girl that I knew that I ran into, her mom took pity on me and let me spend a couple of weeks trying to find a job and rent a room for $150 a month. And that's what I did. I found a job. My first job was at Arby's. I couldn't even afford bus fare at that time. So I was walking 45 minutes to go to this job that
Jeez.
was awful and I hated. And I made just enough to cover my rent because I mean, like, I had next to nothing. Like, I was like scrounging together like 70
Mm.
cents to get my discount to eat my shitty processed burger. If I was lucky enough to be
Yeah.
able to even afford that at that time. So fast forward, I ended up meeting someone and my first apartment live-in situation. I'm 16 and I'm living with a 24-year-old man.
Damn. Yeah, that's a big age gap if you're 16.
You think I'm just like, I tell that part of my story and they're like, so you were dating a pedophile. And I was like, I was 16, he was 24. I mean, I don't know what else you want me to say there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, it wasn't exactly the greatest situation either. I get to the age of 18. After I left that situation, I couch hopped a little bit more. I ended up falling into a couple part-time jobs and started actually performing. I just had someone in the hip hop industry had heard me singing karaoke and asked me to sing on some tracks.
That is a life surprise right there.
I've always been very performative, musical, and had friends in that were performers. That was part of my salvation. That was really one of the things that actually got me through so much. So I did that, and then singing karaoke, and take this hard left and start doing all these background vocals and writing hooks for the local hip hop industry. And finally I get into my own apartment. I mean, I had nothing. I had a broken couch. And my first mattress was pulled out of a back alley dumpster.
Somebody died on that mattress.
I don't know, but you know what? It was so nice to sleep on something that wasn't a floor or broken. And I was
That's
so
true.
thankful for it. I mean, after giving it a very thorough inspection for bed bugs,
Yeah.
I was like, all right, you know what? Somebody else's trash can be my treasure. That's fine. And I remember sitting there in this apartment, which ended up actually being a foreclosure that had been condemned, and I didn't know that. And I had been illegally paying my rent to people who didn't own the building anymore. It had actually been repossessed by the bank.
You're just paying random people for this apartment.
They showed me this apartment. They gave me keys. They did like a whole thing with me, and I'm paying them rent. And I can't even afford my power. I'm eating beans in candlelight, and I've got this shit eating grin on my face. And I'm like, you know what? This is the start of something new for me. This is only going up from here. It is going up. I've got food in my belly. There's candlelight. I've got my dumpster mattress that's free from bed bugs. Okay. And I am working 2 part-time jobs and I'm gaining some credibility in this hip hop scene.
Sounds like winning. Yeah.
I'm fine. And then, you get the knock on the door a couple of months later from this equities company that has now bought in the building and is like, hey, so this building was condemned. Just want you to know, you're the only person here that's actually paying rent. So they're like, All these buildings, like these rooms were not supposed to be renovated. You've been illegally paying your rent to these people, and you're also the only one not squatting and on meth. And I was like, that sounds about
Mhm.
right.
That's so sad though. You were so happy.
I was so happy. I was so happy. I mean, like the bar was really low. We'll say that,
Yeah.
but I was very happy. But the truth is that I did have this fire. I did feel like it was a turning point, and it was. And I often go back to that particular memory and that moment, and I think about that. As I look out from this beautiful studio workshop space that I have, or as I'm like watching my kids play, or on a rooftop in Sayulita, I'm like meditating and like having all this stuff come up, and I've got like just this beautiful, beautiful life, and that gratitude that I felt in that moment, eating these beans on the,
Yeah.
on the floor in candlelight, that profound amount of gratitude still carries through in all of these things today, but the landscape just looks so different. It looks
Yeah. So
so different, but that the gravity of it is still so similar, and
yeah.
it is the feeling, like and that tells me, it's like this sort of profound moment where you recognize that it doesn't matter your situation, it doesn't matter your environment, if you can look around and believe in yourself, and also just choose for yourself that things are different from here, right? And have that gratitude
Yeah.
for what it is that you have, no matter how little, right? Like
Yeah.
it changes your life, and it changed mine. And again, it was not clean, was definitely messy, and I had so much to learn, but things did go up from there. I made that decision. I just like was like, things are going to go great from here. I ended up managing a gym like 4 months later that I had no business managing. It's like I was like still smoking cigarettes, ones that I could bum, and I was hired as a supervisor there, and I pretty much harassed them for the job. So they were like, okay. They ended up just giving it to me because I presented well, and I was able to really lie my face off in order to get where I was going.
Solid.
Well, absolutely, absolutely. And I did a good job. I did do a good job. And yeah, I it was just kind of an up and up and there. From there, managed this thing. I ended up moving into like a basement suite, and I was like, I had enough to pay all my bills, power on, have some
Mm.
groceries, buy a little bit of cigarettes, and just live. And within 2 years from that, I ended up just kind of blowing up in the hip hop scene. I was co-hosting on a college radio station. I ended up touring, like doing shows in front of thousands of people. Was offered a record deal in
Oh,
2013.
that's cool.
Down, yeah, it was
You turned
wild.
it down?
I did,
Okay.
because it's often a very big trap, and I'm glad that I did, turn it down. I had no control over anything, and there's so much in the music industry that is no bueno, especially when you're signing contracts and you're essentially taking a loan out, and they
Mm.
have control over all of your creative things. So, as it was put to me by a friend, unless they're willing to put you in what we will call the star machine, watch out, because they can bench you. Like, you can be tied to a contract, owing them money while they're not recording you or doing anything if you piss them off. So there's just
Damn.
there's so many different things, and there's no way I was able to afford a music lawyer either. So it's not like I could change anything in that contract.
Mhm.
Life kind of did, it took a huge left turn.
Mhm.
I ended up doing that for quite some time, making decent money. I left the industry when I ended up getting pregnant with my son, and just kind of had a different call. And uh, I was told that I would never pregnant, that I was not able to have kids. So my son came as this really big surprise.
Yeah.
There was just something that changed inside of me, especially after he was born. And I remember looking at this tiny human being and realizing that my heart was on the outside of my body, and that I loved him a lot more than I loved myself, and
Mhm.
that I didn't have a lot of love for myself, and that I hadn't been living a life that showed that I loved myself. I realized that he deserved that. He deserved to have a mom who knew how to love herself so that she could teach him how to love himself. I ended up just imploding my entire life, music industry, friends, everything. And I just turned around, lit a match, burned it all down, and moved out to the middle of nowhere and decided that we were just going to do a lot of shadow work. By that time, too, they had given me a diagnosis of fibromyalgia and were
Oh.
trying to put me on full-time disability. Like I was really not physically well and decided that I was going to dive into Eastern medicine and to dive into meditation and different avenues of mental health. And I never looked back. It was the best decision that I ever made. Like it was genuinely the best decision that I ever made. And through hypnosis and NLP and nervous system regulation, doing Joe Dispenza meditations and being out in the woods and just clearing my entire field of things that were not really authentic to me. I had wrapped up my entire identity into music to try to just cover up all this shit that I didn't want to feel anymore. And it worked. It
Yeah.
was a great band-aid, but you can only put a band-aid over a wolf bite for so long. And now I run a business and I own a home and I have really beautiful things. So you can,
Yeah.
I promise, you can do it.
Well, that gives you a lot of clout because I'm more likely to go and listen to somebody like you than somebody that's, had a freaking golden spoon. Or is it golden spoon? What's the freaking analogy? Golden something.
I think
Well,
that's the one. Yeah, I think that
okay.
I've never had one in my mouth, so maybe that's why I don't know.
That's probably it.
I
But
think it is a golden spirit. It is a golden
no,
spirit.
too expensive for my blood.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
but yeah, those people, I can't take anything that they say seriously because I'm like, have you had any real hardships to know what it's like to even do the things that you're preaching? Oh, and so if you've been through it before and you've gone through these steps and this has been successful for you, that's a cool investment to have as somebody that would, want to come to you for that stuff. So that's pretty cool.
1,000%. Well, that's where you find your people, right? Like you do find your people. And it's actually funny. Like I haven't really told my story publicly a lot. It's more so in those, one-on-one or those group situations where people are like, holy shit.
Yeah.
This is like the highest like PG, not even like rated E for everyone version of this story. So, it's like when I tell you it only gets worse from there and weirder
I
and
believe
more
you.
terrible, it's like yeah,
Yeah.
but like, and it's also like the type, right? It's like when you have somebody that's gone through that, you're a lot more, you're like, oh wow, okay, there's hope for me. Great, awesome.
Mhm.
And there's also those other people that you meet that come in and their perception of hardship, and it is hard for them. Like their nervous system is impacting huge to
Mhm.
something that, was like just an average morning for me.
Yeah.
Like the nervous system impact is very real. It's very traumatic to their system, and trauma isn't measured by what the circumstance is. It's how the nervous system responds to it.
Yeah.
So your parents not letting you get the haircut you want can register as a trauma to the same degree. If you have that, it's a silver spoon. It's neat to be able to work with people who have had some darker shadows, so to speak. They hear
Yeah.
even glimpses of my story and they're like, oh, my shit is actually safe with you. Oh, you're not going to judge me.
Yeah.
I could not. I
Mhm.
could not. The amount, like my life has humbled my ass on so many different levels. Like you walk around with humility. That's something that's like embedded in you.
Yeah.
I know where I've been. I know where I am, and I also know the universe gives, the universe takes. So
Mhm.
I'm here, and I'm in service to others, and very, 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 very grateful. And also know that shit can turn on a dime. Wake up every single day realizing that, I'm living in more than just prayers answered, right? Like I'm living in such a
Mhm.
different expansion of that, and it only continues to expand beyond so many things that I even would have thought possible for myself.
Have a question about your parents in a weirder way or a different way.
Sure.
Because I had the same experience when I had a kid. I when I had my child, I was the love and stuff that you have for that child and the way that you want to shield them, everything. And like you say, oh, my heart's on the outside of my body. It almost kind of flipped the switch of the excuses that the parents would give half the time for stuff. Did you get that same switch of how did my parents, not do this or not do this? Because I definitely would never be able to fucking do this with my kid or do this to my kid.
I mean, given some of my history, I had to do a lot of reparenting work. And I'm in a good relationship with both of my parents. We're different
Oh, wow.
people. We're different people. But from me, my journey, and this is not for everybody's journey, but my journey was a lot around taking a look at everything and breaking generational cycles by making active choices to recognize the shifts in time for everybody and the
Mhm.
healing. I wanted my kids to grow up with their grandparents.
Oh, yeah.
My mom and her husband, like, I mean, they're classic grandparents to my kids in so many levels. And kids look at the life that they're being raised in. And it is
Mhm.
just so different than anything, like, they'll never have to experience anything close to what I had to experience. Yes, I did go through a lot of pain. And also, going back and doing a lot of that reparenting work and that inner child work gave me such a beautiful opportunity to put myself in their shoes because they were teenagers when they had me.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, right. And you know, my father had lost both of his parents by the time he was 22. You know,
Yeah.
there's not like he was raised without a father. His father died when he was 2. My grandmother passed away when I was 2. My mother's father passed away that same year when I was 2. You know,
Damn.
and my grandmother, she's a different story. So I can witness and recognize a lot of the things that the previous generations before me went through and how painful a lot of those things really are for them and were for them.
Mhm.
You know, so while I may not connect or understand some of the choices still, and
Yeah.
there are aspects of it that are, challenging, to say the least. I have a profound amount of compassion and forgiveness, as well as recognition for a lot of the changes that they've also made over the years. They're fundamentally different people. And if I can change the way that I did from I would never want anybody hanging my 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old choices and mistakes and judgments and messes over
Yeah.
my head, let alone being, brave enough or stupid enough to have a baby that young
Yeah.
without having guidance and going through so much loss, like you're going through parental loss at that time too, right? So
Yeah.
you don't have that guidance and that wisdom that's around you to help you through things. My mother, she had my brother with her second marriage, and she was raising us working a couple of jobs, being super young, and then I went through what I went through before I was 10, and nobody tells you how to do that. And as a parent, one thing I definitely can say is that those are phone calls I would never know how to handle, and nobody would teach you how to handle having to figure that out and to see your children, or your child hurting and broken to that. Nobody prepares you for that. She's
Yeah.
young and she's witnessing me have panic attacks and squish myself in uncomfortable corners. She's got other people in the family who everybody wants to have an opinion and everybody wants to judge.
Mhm.
There's a lot of persecution and being ostracized rather than supported. They're treating my specific type of abuse like some sort of a disease and segregating me from the other children. Like there was a lot of separation and segregation. So, I take a look at that and like what she had to go through, and honestly, it's a miracle that she even is who she is today. Like, I don't need to hash every aspect of things out. It's enough
Mhm.
for me to know that what as a family we're giving to my children that she didn't have and I didn't have. That's enough.
I mean, that takes a lot to be able to forgive to that level, because I think people think it's really hard to write people off and to, cut the tether or whatnot. But I think it's harder to forgive and let them be a part of your life to how you feel like they should be, because that's hard. So
Yeah, well, and I mean, there was a lot of years that, I didn't really talk to either of my parents. My relationship with my dad is a whole that's a whole other Netflix special. There's stuff that still triggers me and comes up, and I have the tools and the skills to deal with it. and I know where my boundaries are. I know where my bandwidth is.
So if somebody is going to seek out treatment, or do you call it treatment, or what do you call it? What's the term?
I mean, it's just session work, right? Like we're real. This is a human messy experience, and we're here to
Okay.
just meet you where you are. I don't really believe that people are broken. I just think that they're living in separation and disconnection. And this world has a really good way of helping you forget
Mhm.
love that lives inside of you. It wouldn't feel so shitty if that was your natural state, right?
Yeah. So when somebody's going to come in for a session or has decided to take that path and they're probably a little bit hesitant, or maybe, I don't know, do people usually know what they're getting into, or do they book it with some kind of idea and then it is explained to them and then they kind of fall in love with it? Or, I mean, what's the commitment factor on it?
So it just depends on who you are and what we're dealing with. But I always have a complimentary consult with people prior to working together because
Mm.
sometimes you go through that consultation and you realize you're just not the right fit to work together. And I'm not afraid to tell somebody, hey, I'm not the right fit for you, but here's somebody who might be.
Yeah.
And people are feel free to mull it over, right? There's some of those like ones that like you just know and you're gravitated and it's
Hmm.
great, but not always is it the right fit. And a good chunk of the battle is finding a person that you feel comfortable enough to go into these places with. If you don't feel
Yeah.
comfortable with that person, you could go to someone else that you do feel comfortable with who's using the exact same tools, and you will have a profound and amazing experience with them because you trust them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Do you ever do body language courses? Did you have to do that before you started, or is it something that you ever do just to kind of read people a little bit better?
no, no, hypervigilance took care of that for me.
That's true. That's very true. It does.
Yeah, I don't even know what it would be like to like shut that function off. I'm like hypervigilance is a superpower when you're not sitting there going like, "Oh my god," all the time embracing yourself when you're regulated and things are good.
Hmm.
Like it's a superpower observation. It's a great bullshit meter too,
No,
when you
yeah.
come to somebody and you're like, "Oh, yeah, you're still lying to yourself, let alone me." So
Yeah.
we're just gonna go in a different direction, and that's no judgment. We're really good at telling ourselves what we need to hear to cope with where we're at, right?
Oh, yeah.
And fucking guilty of charge, been there.
Yeah.
But
Probably
yeah,
still do
no,
that.
right? We all do. They're called blind spots for a reason.
Mhm.
So there's it's a no body language courses. It's one of those things when you're raised like scanning for danger
Mhm.
all the time. You
Yeah.
pick on these really neat nuances of people. You can tell when someone's stressed or performative, or when you see the mask come on and then you see the mask come off.
Yep. Flipping it.
Yeah, you can see it, and all of it is welcome. I mean, we all wear masks.
You get so used to it, you forget that you're even wearing one half the time.
100%. You become so associated with that identity, and you
Mhm.
forget. You're like, "Oh, this is what I'm supposed to be." And
Yeah.
that's something even I've had to work on, in my business as well, right? There was this idea, I was, like, mortified when clients would find out in the past that, like, I used to be in the hip hop industry. They'd be like, "Oh my god, I found your music. You're amazing." And I'm like,
I'm not that person right now. Just hold on. It's different.
and I was so uncomfortable with it. And now I weave that in. Like, that's a part of who I am, and I love that part of me. I love that creative part of me. But there was like there was a while where I was like I felt like I had to, really, be well
Yeah.
postured and sit in this
Compartmentalize.
compartmentalize and only show this like very spiritual exterior.
Mhm.
And I'm like, no, like that's just not who I am. I love who I am. And I also really love the word fuck. So I'm gonna say,
I
you know,
too. I
yeah,
love it.
it's such a versatile word.
Mhm. Oh,
So
yeah.
it's that's just part of who I am. And I've learned to really love those aspects. And that's what authenticity really is. Going through everything that I've gone through and also still
Mhm.
hiding the essence of who I am from public view. That doesn't make any sense when there is just so many people out there that need the permission slip from someone like me, from a
Yeah.
story like mine. But I found myself being that way, posturing quite a bit.
Mhm.
And then later on in life, ended up actually finding out that the reason why I was treatment resistant was because I'm autistic. Yeah, seems to be coming out more and more. I found out through this process with my son. They're like, "So, did you know that one usually it's genetic and usually there's an undiagnosed parent?" And I'm like, "Oh, I didn't know that." They're like, "Yeah, do you know it presents differently for women than men?" And I was like, "Oh, well, the more you know."
Good.
Right, awesome. So,
Mm,
and that's like again a beautiful thing that I've learned to love about myself. And I like that because I can also teach my son to just love those differences about himself too,
yeah.
right?
It's a lot easier when you're like, I too am A, B, or C, and have become successful I hate to say in spite of it, because that makes it sound like it's a negative, but have still become
Despite,
successful. Yes.
despite, right? Not in spite, but despite of it,
Yeah.
right? And honestly, like I look back on all of these things and I'm like, well, fucking yeah, like this, it makes a lot of sense. Like it makes a lot of sense. I would not be where I'm at without those qualities either, right? It's like there's some superpower shit in there. When you like hyperfixation,
Hmm.
that's a superpower. You're sitting there and
Hmm.
you're like, I'm gonna dive into my own self development now, and this is all I'm gonna fixate on. But yeah, it's kind of funny. It is kind of
Hmm.
funny. Yeah.
So because you hyper fixated on your own self improvement, you were able to become successful in the way that you have then, huh?
But, I mean, it definitely contributed. It didn't hurt the matter. It
Yeah.
didn't hurt the matter. But on the other hand, also, the profound impact on my nervous system was a lot greater than I think anticipated because of the hypersensitivity as well.
Mm.
Right? There's a reason why I didn't do so well socially, and it wasn't just trauma, right? And there's a reason why I
Mm.
would prefer to hide in the library at recess than play with others. There's a reason why when everybody else was groaning about essays, I was like, "Oh my god," secretly celebrating. Really good at these. And I look at my son and I look at myself and I look at a lot of people who have been labeled with things, and
Mhm.
I don't like the way that labels just sort of crunch you in there. They
Mhm.
either do one of two things for people. They provide a permission slip to understand themselves better and their own little quirks. And they just look at it as like a format that they can, understand why they maybe respond to certain things and have that awareness and soften those edges and work with
Mhm.
those parts, or they use it to completely debilitate themselves and live and die by that code that they've been given, that program that they've been given. And I find that when we're living and dying by something like that,
Yeah.
then it cages us from our potential, and oftentimes it can also has this way of making us view ourselves as fundamentally flawed rather than you know again just human. Yeah.
When you first got in this, I'm guessing you didn't have a bunch of clientele or whatnot. You had to build it just like everybody else does. What did you have a pivotal moment with a client where you're like, "Holy shit, this is working for all of these other people," and it kind of amped you up a little bit? Because I'm sure it wasn't magic just start. There was somebody that probably was that first little like, "Oh, this is really fucking working for all of these people," and you got even more excited about it.
I feel like there was like little moments in that as my evolution went on, right?
Mhm.
I actually had started out as a reflexology therapist, and I was still really hiding
So
my like
what is a
some.
reflexology therapist? I know I've seen it before. I don't remember what it is.
Yeah, so you're working with a lot of the pressure points and different meridians inside of the hands, feet, and face, like locating different pressure points and being able to work on the musculoskeletal system through that. That's kind of I was like, I want to do health and wellness. And also, I'm still working on some things, and I'm also super terrified to let people know anything about me. So,
Mhm.
you know what? I'll massage your feet. And I'll be really good at that. And then I went and had my meditation training after it being so profoundly impactful for me. And it was actually, I would say, COVID that was the turning point. Right, a lot of people
Mm.
needed help, and I was just doing
Yeah.
meditation groups online by donation. Well, that was kind of that turning point. Was doing these group sessions and people really connecting with my work, and then I started developing these 8-week programs and running them at a beta rate, and noticed that it was really working for the majority of the people that I was working with. And then I also became interested in the people that it wasn't. having as profound of impacts on. Like, it was helping but not
Yeah.
giving them that, that burst. So it was COVID that ended up just kind of being the turning point
Mm.
of things, and just offering those group sessions, helping people regulate their nervous system and also come together when they're in isolation, but finding a place online that they can all connect. COVID gave a lot of people time
Yeah.
that they had to
Yeah.
sit with all of the things that they weren't facing and hadn't faced up to that point. People were really looking for someone else that could help them work through those things that they were often too busy to feel and too distracted to feel, which was great. So that was kind of the turning point for me.
So how many, if you're going to introduce somebody into meditation, how many minutes a week does somebody need to do to see improvements or see a difference?
So there's kind of two different avenues here. One, if you want to create a change, right, that's actually sustainable in your life. Like, you got people who have never meditated a day in their life. They sit there for 30
I've
seconds
tried. I
and they're
suck
like,
at it.
you're not sucking at it. If you think you're stuck at it, then congratulations, you've begun the practice. Genuinely, it's not about, like, we have this idea that we have to be good at something, and meditation is about just having this full still mind. But at first it is mindfulness, and it's about carving the time out for ourselves to even get into that connection. We can't have this expectation that meditation, the minute that I sit down and I do it, that I'm going to just drop into this blissful space. I've been meditating for years, and there are some days where my mind just does not shut the fuck up. But I
Mhm.
sit down in that practice anyway, because I've trained myself that this is where we land. And if there's something in my mind that's loud in that moment of my practice, that's okay. I'm going to pay attention to that as well. Sometimes there's something to change, sometimes there's just something to process. And awareness is that first key. So if somebody's going to welcome themselves into that meditation practice, what I would just say is start honestly with just your breath. Sit down for 2 minutes a day and just breathe. Do some box breathing. Breathe slow. Regulate your nervous system. You can't expect to drop into this deeply meditative state if if you're not even breathing
Yeah.
correctly in your parasympathetic nervous system. If you're automatically always activated in survival mode and stressed, the expectation that meditation is just going to work for you right off the hop is, a fanatical thing.
Mhm.
Really, if you want to create a habit out of something, it's better to do it 2 minutes a day than to do it just once a week for an hour.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, you
that's
want
true. I could not do it for an hour.
just get comfortable. If you're uncomfortable trying meditation, congratulations,
Mhm.
you're doing better than you think. Just sit down for 2 minutes a day, and also try guided meditation first, or try even walking meditations. There's many different ways that we jump into a meditative state, and really meditation is just becoming consciously aware of that state that you're in.
I'm gonna try. I am, and I hate the word try, going to start doing that 2 minutes a day and seeing if I can make it.
I did like a 41-day challenge.
Ooh, explain.
So it's fantastic. I listen to it before bed. There's different variations of it, different teachings of it, but essentially it's backed by science to actually regulate your nervous system and increase, like, sleep and all sorts of different things. And it will help you practice getting into those meditative states without having to practice silent meditation. So I would suggest trying that out. You're following along with someone else's voice, and you're also going through sensorial experiences, and, like, the whole guidance is programmed to get you out of that logical thinking mind and getting into
Yeah.
this whole different other experience. It's really beautiful, and it helps with fatigue reset big time. You'll sleep really, really well, and you'll wake up
Hmm.
with more energy, and it's great for busy minds.
What do you want to do for the future of this? Like, what is your goal for what you're doing right now?
I host regular retreats, and I really love doing that inner work. That's super great. So I'll be hosting some retreats out of country next, which I'm very excited about. So events and retreats, and then online. I've been working with people online and online group sessions, and that's where I'm at this point. Now that this system is functioning the way that it is, it frees up my capacity to be able to make a bigger impact on more.
What is the question that you would hope or would want somebody to ask you that they haven't yet? Maybe when you were struggling as a teenager.
It was that, what is it that you really need? What is it that you need to feel peace. Everybody was they wanted to give an opinion, right? I'd try to speak or tell them what my experience was. And I was trying to talk about these things. And everybody had an opinion about how to get over it, what to do, go over it, go under it, or just writing me off sort of as this waste of human potential. And I think if somebody really would have sat down and said, what is it that you want for yourself? And what is it that's actually going to provide you some peace? That would have fundamentally changed the way that I was viewing things. I would have loved if someone just asked me, like, what do you need? Rather than just projecting what they thought that I needed. Yeah.
Before you get out of here, I just want to say a really quick thank you for you guys that are listening and listening every week. It has been a humbling experience to get to interview all of you guys and even my friends that I've known for decades, just to be able to sit and talk with you guys and take a freaking minute to learn about you has been awesome. That being said, I mean, we're in the top between 20 to 30% of podcasts. And that's all because of you. That's not because of anything I've done other than put this stuff up here and let you guys tell your stories. So that is a pretty awesome feat that proves that your guys' stories are freaking important and that people are interested in what you have to say. So thank you. Thank you for giving me your time, and thank you for sharing your stories. And if you guys are interested in any of Jaide's information, it's rosemary'slighthouse.com is the website, and I will put her link and everything down below so you guys have it in the show notes. All right, you guys have a freaking phenomenal week, and I'll see you next time.